It's been a banner year in the courts as Donald Trump continues to test the limits of presidential power. In a series of emergency rulings, the United States Supreme Court greenlighted a very muscular vision of executive power that redounded to the president's favor. It ruled in favor of President Trump in multiple cases involving ICE raids, government firings, and deportations. And all of this comes on the heels of the court's 2024 landmark ruling expanding presidential immunity. This term, on its merits docket, the court is set to decide cases that will have wide-reaching implications. The issues on deck include birthright citizenship, presidential authority to remove agency officials without cause, and the validity of the Trump tariffs. Let's take a look at what we've seen so far and what is to come. After oral arguments this month, Axios reported that the Supreme Court, quote, seems ready to let Trump fire independent commissioners of agencies. But not all of the justices seem to want that outcome. The liberal-leaning justices express concern for democracy if Trump is granted that power. Take a listen.
Neither the king, nor parliament, nor prime ministers, England at the time of the founding, ever had a unqualified removal power. You're asking us to destroy the structure of government.
So once you're down this road, it's a little bit hard to see how you stop.
Looking ahead, in January, the court will reprise this question of whether the president has unfettered authority to remove agency heads. It will take up the case of whether Donald Trump can fire Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook without cause. That case will not only have repercussions for the question of presidential removal power, but also the independence of the Fed and its ability to structure economic policy. Also on deck in 2026, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear Trump's challenge to birthright citizenship. Although it does seem that despite these many challenges, the justices, although they've been receptive to the Trump agenda, have also dealt the president some notable losses. For example, they temporarily invalidated the administration's deployment of National Guard troops in Chicago as legal challenges to that policy continue. And at oral arguments in November, even the conservative justices seemed skeptical of Trump's tariffs. Joining me now to discuss all of this is Leah Lippman, a law professor at the University of Michigan and my co-host on the Strict Scrutiny podcast. Leah, let's do a quick rundown. What are the cases that we should be keeping an eye on heading into 2026?
In addition to the ones you named, there is the case about the future of the Voting Rights Act and whether the court will strike down what remains of the Voting Rights Act, and specifically the nationwide ban on racial discrimination in voting. There's also the case about whether the court is going to strike down state laws that allow states to count ballots that are received after Election Day. That has the potential to nullify laws in about 18 states, as well as the District of Columbia, that currently structure our elections. There are also cases about whether states can continue to discriminate against transgender athletes by excluding them from participating in sports that correspond with the team of their gender identity. So these are just some of the cases, and then there are all of the ones that you named and more.
All right, so it's going to be a big year at the court. It's already been a big season, even just taking into account the emergency docket. We saw a few days ago that the court did not rule in Donald Trump's favor with regard to the National Guard, and a number of media outlets suggested that this court is now ready to stand up to this president. Is that your take on this?
Not my take at all. So I think people should probably pause before they embrace the Supreme Court as our last bastion of liberty that is going to safeguard us from the president. This is the court that has enabled the president's expansive vision of presidential power, allowing him to unilaterally destroy agencies that are created by Congress, not just the Department of Education, but also the U.S. Agency for International Development. This is the court that has thus far allowed the president to slash congressionally appropriated funds at the Department of Education and foreign aid, as well as almost $1 billion in medical research grants that the National Institutes of Health administer. This is the court that has given the president power to basically fire all of the heads of the independent agencies that currently structure much of our federal government and that are the main regulatory apparatus that regulates big corporate interests. And the court is about to hand the president power over those agencies. And when you have those big corporate interests that the president is cozying up to, well, I don't think agencies that that are subject to his plenary power are going to be inclined to actually regulate those big business interests.
All right, so you are not giving the Supreme Court the Marjorie Taylor Greene rebrand this year. Still in the pocket.
I think they are. I think we should expect the court is going to rule against, Donald Trump and his administration sometimes, but that's not going to change the fact they have enabled, his agenda, not just through the decisions we've been ticking through, but also through the immunity decision. If you look at so much of what the president is doing now, the dissenters in that case warned about the president ordering assassinations through the military. Well, what is the president doing now? He's literally ordering the summary execution of people who are suspected narco traffickers. The dissenters warned that the president would hand out bribes for pardons. Right now, who are pardons going to? People who contributed to Trump-associated PACs.
Well, can we talk about the dissenters for a minute? So the cry is coming from inside the House. Let's take a listen to Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who spoke out earlier about the dangers of too much presidential power. Take a listen.
Our founders were hell-bent on ensuring that we didn't have a monarchy. And the first way they thought of that was to give Congress the power of the purse. Court decisions stand. Whether one particular person chooses to abide by them or not, other actors in the system, whether it's Congress or others, will follow the law because it's what we all take an oath of office to do.
She spoke a lot about Congress, which was supposed to be a principal check on presidential authority, not the courts. Where is Congress in all of this, and how can this power be wrested back to the legislative branch now that it's been taken?
Congress is notably absent, but that has also been, largely at the Supreme Court's doing, because the court has hamstrung Congress's powers, even at the same time that it has granted the president so much. Again, the court has allowed the president to decline to spend congressionally appropriated funds. They have allowed the president to destroy congressionally created agencies. So how can we get that power back? You actually get a Supreme Court that believes in democracy and a legislative power.
All right, Leah Lippman, thank you so much. I will see you on the podcast.